Well, people aren't going to be here anyway. What difference does it make?
Usually, it would make a lot of difference, says branding consultant Denise Leon. She says decorations help shoppers get in the holiday spirit. But during a pandemic, store owners are grappling with a new question.
Are we being responsible by attracting people to our locations?
She says in lieu of big displays, many retailers are diverting resources to giving customers a virtual holiday experience and also making sure their search functions and e-commerce platforms can handle the heavy load. I'm Andy Euler for Marketplace.
And I'm David Brancaccio. You're listening to the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
The Jesse Ball DuPont Fund wants you to know Giving Tuesday is December 1st. Join this worldwide movement by giving time, money, or your voice to the nonprofits you love. More info at dupontfund.org/Giving Tuesday. Let's give, Jacksonville.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Law Firm.
I'm Wayne Hogan. Distracted driving is deadly. Teens? Yes, but adults too. And there are millions more adults than teens. Arrive alive. Let's end distracted driving.
Learn more at waynehogan.law.
Baptist Health wants you to have peace of mind during these challenging times. If you have concerns about COVID-19 symptoms, talk to a nurse. This service is open to the public for all ages. Available Monday through Friday, 904-302-5050.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
Can Lot J succeed where the Jacksonville landing failed? I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, lessons learned from past downtown developments. We'll speak with the Times Union's David Bauerlein about the future of Lot J. Then later.
Weaving and textiles have been part of our culture from the beginning, from writing alphabets on fiber to developing computers with binary code.
The stress of the pandemic has led to a modern-day return to ancient arts. A conversation with the Jacksonville Weavers Guild. All of that and more is just ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Giles Snyder. President-elect Joe Biden is building out his White House team. He is expected to appear today alongside some of his newly announced cabinet picks. They include veterans from the Obama administration, and Biden is planning to name former Fed Chair Janet Yellen to head the Treasury Department. NPR's Scott Horsley.
She's obviously held a number of powerful economic posts already. She led the central bank for 4 years under Presidents Obama and Trump, and she was also a top White House economist under President Clinton. She's been described as extremely competent and experienced. She's well known by other central bankers around the world, which would be helpful as Treasury Secretary. And she's a consensus builder, which Washington could certainly use right now.
The transition process is moving into a new phase. The General Services Administration has formally recognized Joe Biden as the president-elect, giving him the resources he needs ahead of the inauguration in January. While President Trump tweeted his support of the move last night, he still refuses to concede and is pledging to continue fighting the election results in court. The number of COVID-19 hospitalizations in the U.S. now tops 83,000, and Will Stone reports that some hospitals are warning that they may have to ration care to include a patient's odds of survival.
When hospitals get strained, they resort to so-called crisis standards of care. It's a guide for how to prioritize care during a catastrophic event. Both the Midwest and South have close to 30,000 patients hospitalized for COVID. Dan Hanfling is an emergency physician who helped craft one of the national models for crisis standards of care.
Unfortunately, I think, looking into the very near future, we may soon cross that threshold.
Some states, including Utah and Missouri, have warned this could be coming. Hanfling says it will be done incrementally, and he expects the biggest issue will be having enough trained staff, not supplies like ventilators. For NPR News, I'm Will Stone.
The only U.S. meatpacking plant approved to export kosher beef to Israel is being sued for alleged unsafe working conditions during the pandemic. Bill Kelly is with member station NET. He reports a federal case is being brought on behalf of employees at the plant in central Nebraska.
About 300 workers process Angus beef at Western Reserve, owned by Minnesota-based Noah's Ark Processors. The American Civil Liberties Union filed the lawsuit on behalf of a Nebraska doctor treating COVID patients and 4 former workers, all of whom contracted the virus. Court filings claim workers are not being provided clean protective masks or on-site testing, and safe distancing is not required along the production line. All are practices recommended by public health experts. A federal judge is being asked to require the company put in place commonly used precautions. The company declined comment on the lawsuit. For NPR News, I'm Bill Kelly in Lincoln, Nebraska.
And you're listening to NPR News.
WJCT News 89.9 is sponsored in part by Humana, offering a variety of plans to fit your needs. Information at 904-303-2505.
And the time is 9:04. This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. I'm Michelle Corum. Duval County inches closer to 41,000 total coronavirus infections after the addition of more than 300 newly confirmed cases overnight on Sunday. The death toll here rose by 4 to 569. Clay County saw the second highest jump in cases on the First Coast. The addition of 70 newly confirmed infections brings Clay County's total to nearly 7,500. No new deaths, though. Some local doctors are asking state lawmakers to make preventing the spread of a coronavirus a priority. At yesterday's Duval Legislative Delegation meeting, Jacksonville Dr. Nancy Statz made this request.
As a large group of Florida doctors, our request to you is simple and really cheap. All we're asking for is your immediate and strong support for a statewide mask mandate.
Governor Ron DeSantis has made no indication that he would enact a statewide mandate, as other states have done. Stotts also told Duval delegation there are public health messages that need to be better communicated, including the deadliness of the virus and the effectiveness of masks. It's 61 degrees here downtown in Jacksonville. The afternoon's going to be mostly sunny, near 73 degrees. This is WJCT News.
Support for NPR comes from Capital One, offering Capital One Shopping, a downloadable browser extension that searches various sites for shoppers. What's in your wallet? More at CapitalOneShopping.com. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation at rwjf.org.
Can Lot J succeed where the Jacksonville landing failed? I'm Melissa Ross, and good morning. We're live from Studio 5. Thanks for listening to First Coast Connect today. Just ahead, the lessons learned from the city's last big downtown development project from decades ago, as the Jaguars say they want stadium upgrades before they'll commit to a lease extension for the team. Give us a call. It's 549-2937. Then later, we've got a preview of Bright Friday. Yes, Bright Friday in Jacksonville, as the city's cathedrals will get all lit up this holiday. But first this hour, the latest on the coronavirus pandemic. The state reported 6,331 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. There's a cumulative total in the state of 944,745 cases and nearly 1 million active COVID cases in Florida. And the highest death count since October was reported Monday. Hospitalizations are surging, and the state is bracing for further increases from holiday travel. We can't stress this enough. Don't travel for this Thanksgiving if you don't have to. Public health experts are begging the public to just stay home and have a small dinner with your loved ones. All right, let's get to some other news. The site of the former Jacksonville landing is now just an open lawn, right? The landing was demolished last year after struggling for many years before that, since it first launched to great fanfare back in the 1980s as a festival marketplace. Now the city council has to decide whether to spend more than $230 million in taxpayer money to build another big downtown project. Shad Khan's vision for Lot J, as it's currently called, will be built near the Jaguar Stadium and feature dining, a hotel, office space, residences, and live entertainment. So what lessons can be learned from the landing's eventual failure? Can Lot J work where the landing failed? And how about this? The Jaguars are saying this morning that any extension of their current lease with the city would have to involve expensive stadium upgrades. David Bauerlein, reporter for the Florida Times-Union, is on the line and has a lot to say about all this. Hey, David. Good morning. Always good to hear your voice.
Absolutely. Good morning, Melissa.
Already getting your calls and tweets about the Jaguars, Lot J, and negotiations over the stadium lease. Give us a call. It's 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax, or weigh in on Facebook. So 2 big stories in the Florida Times-Union today. I recommend everyone read them and subscribe at jacksonville.com. David, let's begin with your deep dive into a little history. You look at how the Jacksonville landing was built and launched to all this fanfare, and then, it, as we all know, now it's just an empty lawn. Nothing left of the landing. So as the city prepares to look at putting millions into Lot J, what lessons can we draw from how they handled the landing development?
Well, I think the landing was the project that started basically to be a magnet to bring people downtown, which is comparable to the idea behind Lot J, that it's going to be the, quote, living room of the whole region, and people are going to want to go downtown to spend their time and for the entertainment, the dining, the options that would be there. So what happened with the landing was it really did start off with great fanfare, and then it really did not continue to attract people, and it was primarily set up as an alternative to suburban shopping malls because, you know, downtown used to be where all the big department stores were, and then the retail moved to the suburbs, and it was an effort to try and bring back people to do shopping downtown, leave with shopping bags from downtown. And over time, that proved to be a formula that just didn't work. And then they did try to move more towards an entertainment dining mix. The big investor in it, Rouse Company that built it, decided it wasn't one of its better performing properties. It sold it to the Slayman family. The Slayman family had different ideas over the years to try and get the city to partner with them to kind of reimagine and renovate the landing on a large scale. Those didn't happen. And then even the Slayman family said, well, it's not working. We just want to demolish it and do something different on the site entirely. So lessons learned. Obviously, it's got to be the right mix, the right kind of appeal for getting people to drive downtown, because Lot J, in order to succeed, it's going to have to be more than just the people who live in the apartments that will be built next to it. Probably even more than the people who are moving downtown, which is getting a growing residential population. It's going to have to be something that attracts people from the suburbs, something that even makes it appealing to people to have a convention in downtown Jacksonville as opposed to any other city. And so it's got to be that drawing card, and that's the real question, I think, maybe for City Council, among others, which is this really a kind of viable, long-term, sustainable type of attraction that's going to work to the betterment of downtown?
Right. Will it sustain over many years? Is it worth more than $200 million in taxpayer money? That's the question the council is looking at, although you and others have reported they are likely in the end to approve this deal. And this Lot J matter has another wrinkle hanging over it because, as your colleague Jean Fournette reports in the Times-Union this morning, any extension of the Jaguars' current lease with the city beyond the year 2030 would have to include a major renovation of TIAA Bank Field. So, in effect, team president Mark Lamping is telling the TU, look, we're not going to commit to extending the lease unless you guys, the city, fork over a lot of money to help us fix up the stadium. The city council has been arguing, some of them, that the city shouldn't sign off on money for Lot J unless the Jaguars agree to a lease extension. So these negotiations are getting complicated, David.
Without a doubt, yeah. There's a lot of. It's a cliche to say there's a lot of moving pieces, but that's definitely the case with the Jaguars and the entire sports complex area. So what's happened is, in terms of Lot J, there are some city council members who have said the Jaguars have a lease through 2030 for the stadium. For this Lot J development to be successful, it needs to have the Jaguars there definitely past 2030. So let's extend the lease at the stadium so that we know the Jaguars are going to be right there as a partner beyond the next 10 years. And the Jaguars and Lenny Curry administration's response has been that, that the commitment that the Jaguars are making to Lot J shows that they're in it for the long haul. But they are saying that in terms of any kind of lease extension, Lot J is not the right vehicle to negotiate that. And what Mark Lamping was saying today that kind of goes beyond what was said before is that basically at the NFL level, there is not going to be support among the owners, who ultimately are the third party in any kind of a lease extension, to have a long-term lease extension unless there is also significant, substantial, costly upgrades, renovations to the stadium, which is 25 years old and has not had the kind of upgrades that we've seen in other cities that have had really brand new stadiums built in some cases. Or you look down in South Florida where the Dolphins had several $100 million of renovations, including a retractable roof to renovate their stadium and kind of bring it up to the standards that the NFL wants for its stadium. So that's another factor. Then you have not just negotiations between the city and the Jaguars, but also you have the NFL owners into the situation. So that's another thing that City Council's got to consider now in terms of what it wants to get out of the Lot J negotiations and what is acceptable to them for any kind of a deal they're willing to sign off on.
We're speaking with the Times Union's David Bauerlein. What are your thoughts about how should the city pay for Lot J, and how should the city negotiate with the Jaguars over a lease extension? The team is saying no lease extension unless they get money for more stadium improvements. I'll tell you what, this seems to have touched a nerve. We have so many calls and tweets. Let's begin with Joel in San Marco. Hi, Joel. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Good. I'm calling to. I am from Boston, and I'm in commercial real estate there, and I work with a lot of private equity firms here. I've been back and forth between Jacksonville and the San Marco and Boston. Most of my private equity guys fly over Jacksonville and have no interest to develop here because there's nothing downtown. And until we get behind this and go ahead and do have someone who has a vision to build downtown, no private equity will come to Jacksonville. And Jacksonville downtown will always be a blight. There will never be a developer that does not get taxpayer money to do something on this scale. So unless Jacksonville can understand this and wants to be more like Tampa, Orlando, and grow itself, it'll always just be a downtown of nothing happening and no growth. So those are my comments, and I hope the city makes the right decision.
All right, Joel. David, that's the pro argument. That's the argument for buying into this vision.
It is. The idea that it's going to be something that's like the game changer, that type of argument. And when you look at the components of Lot J, the 400 residential, that adds to what's already downtown, but it's not the biggest residential project that's come through the pipe. The hotel is going to be 150 to 250 rooms. That in itself is not the biggest hotel in downtown. The real difference is this idea of the entertainment district, this idea that this is going to be something that's going to draw people into downtown. You can have this big expansion of visits to the sports complex, and then that's going to feed into other development, including, for example, Shad Khan's plan or vision for having a Four Seasons anchored hotel development near Lot J, closer to the riverfront. So to some extent, yes, if the city does this, the idea would be then that other national, international developers are going to take notice. They're going to say, well, this is something the city's serious about downtown, and then you're going to have more development But a lot of that gets back to, does this entertainment district really have that drawing power that's going to pull people into downtown who otherwise are going to stay closer to where they live, closer to home.
Let me
in
ask
terms
you,
of where they
David,
go.
this company, Cordish Companies, they've done these live districts, that's what they're called, in several other cities, right? And I know you've looked at how they've played out in other cities about our size. What's the track record?
So their track record appears to be a good track record, that they have they've not closed any, they've not sold any, they operate them. So they're not just the builder, they're also the operator. And so they have a vested interest in that standpoint in wanting a project that's going to succeed over the long haul. They have done these in several other cities, and including some that are comparable in size to Jacksonville, and seem to have been successful. So on that hand, they have done it well. They do, request on the front end pretty significant taxpayer support, which certainly is the case here in Jacksonville, and that's a big question for council, is the large amount of money that would go into Lot J from taxpayers.
Let's go.
So I think their track record has been strong, and they have tended where they have been to also do a second or third phase in projects that they've done. So from that standpoint, you can say, well, the track record of this company in doing these entertainment districts has been a good track record.
Okay. Lori in San Marco. Hi, Lori. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Melissa. My concern is that the way this contract is currently shaping up is that we're building a profit center for Shad Khan that it could be exclusive of the Jaguars. And so the way I understand the current contract would allow for a scenario where Khan gets the taxpayer money, builds the project, then he can leave the Jag, he can take the Jags, but yet he would still retain prime real estate in downtown Jacksonville. And I think that is just a very poorly written contract. I can't think of any attorney who would advise their client to sign on to something like that with that type of open door and just pray for good faith. Because what we've seen so far is that the money seems to be the primary motivating factor for this owner, which, can't blame him. But, we want to see the Jaguars here, and it seems like our only chance for real leverage to make that happen is now. And I'll take my everything else off air.
All right, Lori. David, in any negotiation, both parties seek some kind of leverage. And I may be generalizing a little bit here, but from the feedback we're getting from the fans out there, they seem to have the perception that the city isn't exercising any leverage at all, that they're allowing themselves to be rolled. And this is coming even from diehard Jaguars fans who typically would be ride or die in supporting this team, losing season or not. What do you think?
Well, there's no doubt that the amount of taxpayer dollars are way, way more than any other downtown project has received. So there's a huge amount of taxpayer dollars, and it's right there in plain sight. I mean, up to $233 million is a massive amount of city support for a project. So there's no question that the city is going to be paying a lot, and the idea of sort of being a 50-50 partner with the private developer, that's an extremely high ratio for any city project of any kind in terms of economic development, including in downtown. So from the standpoint that the Jaguars have gotten a good deal and Cordish has gotten a good deal, there's no question of that from their standpoint. So the question then becomes, should the city then demand a extension of the lease, and is that essential to the long-term success of the project? And that's kind of where things are right now. I think what Mark Lamping is saying today is that the NFL owners, which are the third party involved in this, would not agree to a lease extension that only is based on the Lot J project. And presumably that's something that's, and I don't know that there's ever been another, is there any, that's probably consistent with the policy of the league over the years, that's where they do the lease extensions or approve them, is when there's large new stadiums or massive stadium upgrades.
Okay. Cynthia along Lakeshore Boulevard. Hi, Cynthia. What do you think? Go ahead, Cynthia. Turn your radio down and go ahead. All right, Cynthia, we'll go back to you. Jason in San Marco. Hi, Jason.
Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning.
I just want to, hey, good morning. You know, I've called and I'm not really, I don't support this project. And I want to just make a comment that I think we're kind of ignoring the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the actual Jaguars franchise, which has been a consistent loser. And that right there, honestly, we're looking at a 1-15 season this year. And this is probably not the right time to be pumping a lot of money down into that area when people have the perception that this team may never be a winner. And if you look at the history, we've had this franchise in that area for 25 years or so. I don't know exactly how many, but it's been more than 2 decades. And it surely hasn't brought any economic growth to that area so far. And if you have been coming here for the last 12 or 14 years as an out-of-town person from Tennessee, and you come to the game and you fly to the airport and you drive down and you go by Berkman 2 and you go by the jail, you're kind of got to be asking yourself as a visitor, what is this city doing? So I really think if the Jaguars had shown, if they were a winning franchise, consistent winning franchise, people would be more on board with this, but they're not. Khan's had 10 years. The best team he had 4 years ago has been completely disassembled. It doesn't even look like that. And we're staring at a 1-15 season, and we're hoping that the next year's draft choice, hoping again, will bring us some victories. It hasn't been a successful franchise.
All right,
That's
Jason.
my comment.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. David Bauerlein, Mark Lamping acknowledged that in his interview with the Times-Union that you're running this morning. And he said, look, you've got to try to look beyond that. You've got to try to take the long view, that we are making a long-term commitment to this city through this live development that we want to build. And you've got to look beyond this losing season. That said, certainly a lot of fans are making this argument that it's harder to sell the public and public officials on this because the team isn't really performing. So how much more challenging does this make this whole proposal for the franchise?
Well, it does make it more challenging because city council members listen to their constituents. And certainly, yeah, if the Jaguars had a winning season or a string of winning seasons, and no doubt there would be probably a different, they might be hearing more from their constituents that, you know what, this is a good thing, let's keep it going. And the fact that they have not had winning seasons and are looking at another dismal season, it certainly is a factor in terms of how constituents are responding to this proposal and, you know, what council members are hearing one way or the other from the folks they represent. So it does make it tougher. It's an intangible thing, and ultimately, you know, the city council really needs to look at it from does it make sense as a downtown development deal, and is there enough of a payoff in that regard to justify this large amount of taxpayer dollars? Because that's ultimately what it's going to boil down to.
Lots and lots of tweets. People are really sounding off this morning. Here are just a few. One listener writes, how many millions will we shell out to Shad Khan to keep a historically underperforming team downtown? Carrie tweets the show, I don't buy that they can't get 3/4 of the owners to agree to an extension without a $500 million upgrade. These guys could sell sand in the desert. Here's a tweet. I'm not a football fan, but shouldn't you be a winning team before making demands like this? Damon tweets the show. If only the billionaire owner had the resources to upgrade the stadium himself. Tweet from Catherine. The Jags have overpromised, underdelivered, and now are trying to extort the city. Tweet from Joseph. This is turning into one of the worst relationships in professional sports. They bully the city around like they're the New England Patriots, he says. Someone else tweeted us, have you had Shad Khan or Mark Lamping on the show? Just so everyone knows, we have made the request to interview team president Mark Lamping. We would like to have him on the show. And on our Facebook page, lots of commentary. Here's one. The nerve of these people who think the public purse is their bankroll. And shame on the leader of Jacksonville if they give in just so they can sit in the skyboxes and sip good whiskey with the Jags management. So, David, I think that gives you an idea of the fervor that the many members of the public feel about this. Let me get a few more calls on the air. Johnson on the west side. Hi, Johnson. Go ahead. Johnson, you're on the air. Go ahead. All right, we lost that call. Mark on the west side. Are you still holding, Mark? Good morning, Mark.
Hey, I'm about to have a stroke about this. I remember, I've been here all my life. I remember when the Jaguars were the attraction that was going to be the goose that laid the golden egg, and we were going to have all this development, flowing from them. And it just consistently, no, give us some more money, give us some more money. And it just really irks me that not a billionaire, a multi-billionaire.
Oh, we lost his call, but he was making the point others have made, David, that Mr. Khan certainly has a lot of his own money to spend. That said, what about the earlier caller who works in private equity and pointed out, look, any deal like this is going to require public investment?
I think that's absolutely the case. Every downtown development deal has been a mix of taxpayer and private dollars because of the market downtown. And that's not just the case in Jacksonville. It's been the case in other cities that have really said, look, we need to develop downtown and try and get them back to something like what they once were. So it's not a matter of is there going to be taxpayer support. It's really a question of the magnitude of that support and how does that factor into the total cost of the deal and what are the terms of that. And so that's really the issue there in terms of this particular deal. It's a much larger package of taxpayer support than you would typically find at a downtown development deal. And so that's something the council's got to figure out, whether it supports that level of support for the payoff that it expects to get out of it for downtown development.
Jane emails the show, are they taking into consideration the potential for flooding downtown due to dredging the river, climate change, and coastal erosion? What about that? They're looking to build Shad Khan wants to build a Four Seasons right on the water, David, and then right across the street, Lot J, which could very easily flood. What is the planning for resiliency? It's my understanding they are doing an assessment about this.
Yeah, I don't know really the details of that, although you would expect that would be part of it to make sure that if the water does rise, that there's going to be ways to limit or mitigate any kind of damage. I think Mark Lamping had a line basically to the Downtown Investment Authority Board that Shad Khan's not going to spend, hundreds of millions of dollars and have it float away when there's a rise in sea level or river level. So they are working, incorporating that into the plan. And certainly from the taxpayer standpoint, they really need to make sure that's there because this is going to be a large taxpayer investment. In fact, the entertainment district venue is actually going to be owned by the city. So it's going to have a city asset that it's going to want to make sure it's not at risk over time. So I don't know specifically what the elements are of that. You can do stuff like just build it on a higher foundation, things like that, to try and make sure that it's looking towards the future of what those consequences might be.
Tim is in Orange Park. Hi, Tim. Go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. I'm from Boston and stuff, and I Patriots fan, Red Sox fan, and we were the runs of the league as far as the Patriots go. And, 86 years before we won a World Series. Come on, folks. The truth of the matter is, if you...
You mean the curse of the Bambino? You guys are the most loyal fans on earth.
I'm telling you. So, if you're a real sports fan, you want your team to win, but you don't just abandon your team because they're not winning. So, folks, if you like sports, enjoy the fact that you've got a pro football team. Thank you.
All right, Tim, thanks. David, that's a great perspective from Tim. Sports fans in older cities with older sports franchises, they might be able to offer a little perspective here. Because just because the Jaguars are doing really badly now doesn't mean that they will forever. They could turn it around. It's possible. Boston did finally win the World Series.
There you go.
It only took them almost a century, but they did do it.
Yeah, good things come to those who wait in the sports world. Well, and that's a possibility too. I think the frustration of the fan base here, and even people who perhaps are, maybe they're just they're warm weather fans. I mean, when the team wins, they go to the game. If they don't win, they got other things to do on a Sunday. But it has been year after year. There's been just one season of disappointment after another, and that does add up to a certain psychic toll, I guess, on how the fan and the larger population view the Jaguars. There's not a lot of excitement when Sunday rolls around. There's not a lot on the line in terms of whether they're going to win or lose their next game.
Yeah, I mean, the culture of this city, I think it's fair to say, is a little different than a city like Boston or Chicago. The Cubs finally won a World Series, and Cubs fans are ride or die. There's nothing more fun than a Chicago Cubs game. It really doesn't matter whether they win or lose. So we need to change. I think we need to change the culture in this city, and I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's the X factor here. And when it comes to the health of this franchise, you've got to have fans enjoying the game day experience, whether they win or not.
Right. Well, I think that's absolutely true. And there are, I'm not a huge energized Jaguars fan the way some people are, but there are a lot. They do have a strong fan base, considering especially some of the adversity or the losing seasons that they've had to go through. So you have to give credit to those fans for sticking with them through the years, despite all the losses. I guess it's just a case where, when you get to this point of the season, you want to have your team to have some shot at the playoffs, right? Not the Super Bowl, but have a shot at that if things fall into line, they can be playing after the regular
have
season.
A postseason.
And that's already not the case, and so it just kind of deflates.
It deflates the excitement. Well, before we let you go, what can we expect from the city next? Can you set the table for our listeners, given everything that's come out this morning?
Yeah, I think one of the things, I know Matt Carlucci has talked about wanting some kind of a market viability study and having that be part of the process, which speaks to some of the things we've been talking about in terms of the viability, sustainability. So that's one question. Will City Council agree with Carlucci and demand that as part of the process or not? So that's something we'll be watching. There's going to be a public hearing as part of Council's meeting tonight, so interested to see what kind of comments come up at that. And then we roll into December where, depending on how quickly the Downtown Investment Authority finishes its review, you could have a vote actually by City Council one way or another in December, which would be the preference of the Curry administration and the Jaguars, or it could potentially roll over into January past the holidays. But let's say within the next month, 6 weeks at the latest, we'll know whether this deal is going to happen or not.
Always great to get your insights. He is David Bauerlein of the Florida Times-Union. Everyone subscribe to the paper and read his work along with his colleagues. Thanks so much, David.
And thank you, Melissa. Appreciate that.
Much more still ahead. Later, a preview of the Cathedral District's big plans. It's what they call Bright Friday. We'll explain. But up next.
Weaving and textiles have been part of our culture from the beginning, from writing alphabets on fiber to developing computers with binary code.
How the pandemic has brought all of us stressed out Americans back to the ancient arts as a form of therapy. A conversation with the Jacksonville Weavers Guild. That's next. Okay, how about this? Fiber arts, particularly in this pandemic, are experiencing a huge renewal of popularity all over the world. People are turning to ancient arts like weaving to maintain their balance in the middle of chaos. Weaving actually has a long history of being used for medical and therapeutic benefits, like during World War I, when it was taught to soldiers experiencing shell shock, or what we now call PTSD. It turns out there is a vibrant local weavers community here in our area, and they have a new exhibit you can check out at Ready Arts. I spoke about it with Gail Carson, Vice President at the Jacksonville Weavers Guild. Gail, good to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So tell us about the Jacksonville Weavers Guild.
Well, the Jacksonville Weavers Guild is 46 years old, has about 50 members, people from all kinds of backgrounds, from homemakers to physicians, people that might be retired, people still working. And our mission statement is to advance fiber arts and to retain our heritage.
And when you say heritage, what do you mean by that?
Well, weaving and textiles have been part of our culture from the beginning, from writing on fiber, writing alphabets on fiber, to developing computers with binary codes. So the mathematics involved with the patterns and the technology is very integral even now.
It's interesting, and I love the fact that you're keeping this really ancient art alive in a modern way. And not only that, you've got members from all over the place, all over North Florida, up in Georgia, over in Gainesville, and you have an exhibit that is up now at Ready Arts. What will people see when they come check this out?
When they go to Ready Arts, they're going to see everything from different patterns that are created through how we weave on multi-harnessed looms, to felting. There's tea towels and shawls and scarves and baskets and all kinds of things that have been woven, and really give you an idea of some of the possibilities that can be made with different textiles and weaving.
Let me ask you this, what you call fiber arts, working with a loom or any kind of weaving implement or spinning wheel even, these have really seen a renaissance in this pandemic. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a craft. It's something that's passed on, but also it's something that is continuing to grow. Right now there's a textile that's called Echo and Iris. That's a manipulation, which is a further development of patterns that can be made weaving. So it's not a stagnant art. It's something that has continued to grow.
What do you love about it?
I love sharing it. I love the mathematics of it, the creation of pattern, the different textures, the colors. All the colors integrate when you weave the warp and the weft together. And just recently there was an online class on color in weaving, and there were over 5,000 people that participated in it over nationwide. So it's something that a lot of people enjoy.
Yeah, and the website is jacksweaversguild.org. Go check out their fiber show at Ready Arts, on Hendricks through the end of December. And I would think...
And we also have a YouTube.
Oh, you have a YouTube channel too. And this would be a cool gift to give someone too. One of the things that you've made. Yeah. Are the works at Ready Arts for sale?
They're all for sale, and Ready Arts is happy to ship them or do curbside delivery for you. So you don't have to go in if you don't need to, and you can see everything on our YouTube channel.
Check it out online or on YouTube. They're the Jacks Weavers Guild. Vice President Gail Carson with us. Gail, thanks so much. Happy weaving.
Thank you. You too.
Well, speaking of fiber and textiles, a local businesswoman has launched a brand new fashion line of clothing for kids aged from toddlers to tweens. Terry Ann Wigfield is the founder and creator of the new Jet and Ivy, and she's on the line now. Hi, Terry Ann.
Hello, good morning.
Good to talk to you, and it's really exciting to see someone confidently launching a new business and a newly produced line of clothing from right here on the First Coast, even in this challenging time that we're living in. So what inspired Jet and Ivy?
Well, Jet and Ivy is something that I did want to do for many, many years. Jet and Ivy is a brand that was 100% inspired by my daughter. Our brand is all about comfort, no itch, no tags were possible. My daughter is actually 11, turning 12, which I can't believe right now. But she has always been a challenge with clothing and what to wear, and every parent can relate. I can remember her having a closet full of clothes and my daughter saying, I have nothing to wear, or they want to wear the same shirt or leggings. And the bottom line to all of this, it's all about comfort. It's all about what kids want to wear. So for Jet and Ivy, no matter if it's my brand or any brand that we carry in the store, it's going to always have comfortable clothing for kids.
So you have a physical brick and mortar store in St. Johns County along County Road 210 with your own line, which is Jet and Ivy, and then some other upscale brands for toddlers to tweens. And so you're going to have an e-commerce site too, and I would assume the goal is to expand Jet and Ivy beyond Jacksonville.
Yes, definitely. And hopefully my website should be launching today, actually while we speak.
That's exciting. And so who are Jet and Ivy?
Well, Jet and Ivy is a destination that we would want for kids. Just a little bit about our store. Our store is actually made for kids. It's trendy, it's school appropriate. In the store, we have a lounge for kids to watch TV, or the parents can watch TV. We have a kids shop. It's not juvenile. When my daughter, from experience, my daughter, when she was 8 and 9 years old, she didn't want to shop what was so-called baby anymore, or what she thought was baby. She wanted to shop in a more of an adult environment. So that's what our store is. We're not juvenile.
Right, even for younger kids. No, what I meant was, are Jet and Ivy real people?
Oh, no. Actually, they're not.
Okay.
So the funny part about it is Jet and Ivy is for fast and growing kids. My daughter, I can't believe she's turning 12. I feel like yesterday she was 1. So the Jet is fast, and it's her, and it's growing. So it's a really cool place that you can actually go in, try things on. Kids grow quick. They grow in between sizes. There's nothing in the area. It's so hard to even find size. We go up to size 16 in both boys and girls. And it's so hard in the industry. You have to go in, try it on, make it fit so that you're not online returning everything.
And let me ask you, Terry Ann, how do you do the manufacturing and the design of your clothing here in Jacksonville? But I would think creating a fashion line locally from scratch, that's a big undertaking.
It is, and it's been a challenge. We work with manufacturers in both New York and LA. And, right now we're doing mostly everything remotely. It's been a huge challenge, though, because right now the manufacturing is still running at 50%. We are hoping by January, February, I'm hoping it's going to get to at least 80 to 100%. And it's not just for me, it's really for the whole industry. So that has been a challenge. We were actually supposed to open in May. And with everything going on and all manufacturing just coming to a complete halt, of course we couldn't. And we're just very lucky and fortunate that we were able to open up for the season and to bring the brand to Jacksonville.
It is a brand new brand for Jacksonville and hopefully the world. By the way, you are also donating a portion of the proceeds to St. John's Cares. You will be doing some charity work with the new line as well. And so jetandivy.com, as you said, is the e-commerce site opening up today. But you do have a brick and mortar store. It's on County Road 210 by St. John's Parkway at the Forum at Greenbrier. And we should mention we'll be releasing our gift guide tomorrow that we do every year, and we'll be including Jet and Ivy in it because it's exciting to see an effort like this take flight from right here on the First Coast, Terry Ann. Any final advice for people that are working to launch a business in the middle of this crazy time?
You keep on going and do what you believe. I really believe in the brand, and I know that kids are going to love it, and I know parents will love it. And it's a really cool, different place to visit. We're offering, a lot of sales throughout the holiday, and because we're a new brand, when you come visit until December 31st, we are offering 20% extra off, even additional sale prices within the store.
So check it out, everyone. JetandIvy.com launching today. The brick and mortar store on County Road 210 at St. John's Parkway in the Forum at Greenbrier Shops. She is founder, creator, and CEO, Terry Ann Wigfield. Terry Ann, congratulations.
And thank you for having me on the show.
And in a moment, from Black Friday to Bright Friday, we'll tell you how Jacksonville's Cathedral District is lighting up the urban core and its historic churches this holiday. That's next.
Conductor Thomas Wilkins returns to Jacksonville to lead the symphony in Tchaikovsky's beautiful Serenade for Strings. Written in the model of his great idol Mozart, the Serenade for Strings is still filled with Tchaikovsky's hallmark romanticism. The images it projects are rich, deep, abstract, and enduring. The program also features Poulenc's wonderful Sinfonietta, December 4th and 5th in physically distanced Jacoby Symphony Hall. For tickets and information, visit jacksymphony.org.
Pfizer and Moderna, the companies with vaccine success so far, have gotten there fast. The formula includes a whole lot of money and some luck and
researchers and the efforts to reach potential research subjects. And it's also, I think, a testament of individuals who volunteered.
I'm Kai Rizdal. How production is going so fast and some of the costs that speed has next time on Marketplace.
Tonight at 6 on WJCT News 89.9.
A new leader is taking over the State Department, while critics of the Trump administration say the outgoing president eroded American diplomacy. But some Foreign Service officers say change was needed long before Trump took office.
You can't shape policies today without having a clear-eyed understanding that the State Department in its early history was very much rooted in systemic racism.
What's next for the State Department? It's on the World.
This afternoon at 3, here on WJCT News 89.9.
The president's legal team now wants to delay the certification process in key states that Joe Biden won. Time is tight, but if state officials do miss their deadlines, then the president's lawyers believe local lawmakers could be persuaded to appoint pro-Trump slates to the Electoral College. How likely is that? We'll find out next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, for its second annual holiday event, the Cathedral District in downtown Jacksonville is lighting things up. It's called Christmas in the Cathedral District, Let There Be Light. And this is light that will be visible from I-95 and all of the city's downtown bridges. This is a first of its kind and free event, a gift to the community after a long and challenging year. It's all kicking off the day after Thanksgiving, what they're calling Bright Friday. Right now, we're pleased to welcome Ginny Myrick, CEO and President of the Cathedral District in Jacksonville. Hi, Ginny. Good morning.
Good morning, Melissa.
Also with us, Linda Crofton, their Director of Community Development. Hey, Linda.
Good morning, Melissa.
Good to have you both, ladies. Ginny, let's start with you. You were planning for a Let There Be Light event for the Cathedral District, of course, when the pandemic hit. Last year you had church tours, a holiday market, live music. The pandemic upended all of that. So what you've come up with is something really cool and safe that we can all participate in. What is on the agenda for Bright Friday, as you're calling it?
Well, you did a good job of giving the overview of last year, so we had to rethink the whole plan from our street festival we had last year. And we came up with this idea to do a self-driving tour through the Cathedral District. And we would light it up just as you would expect at Christmas time. So we did a dress rehearsal last week, and it is pretty awesome. We have all 5 historic churches beautifully lit, and then we have over 150 trees in the district that are all lit with white lights. So somebody can enter in 5 different ways to get into the district, and there's a map that you can download and an audio that you can download that tells you the history of these fabulous buildings. In addition to the 5 historic churches, we have 4 other historic buildings that are lit, and the narration is really pretty special.
I love this, Linda. So as we drive through, we have our own audio tour in our cars, and you have an introduction from Courtney Lewis of the symphony, music from the Jacksonville Symphony to accompany your tour. So I'm picturing this in my mind, looking at all of these beautiful historic cathedrals from our car, all lit up, while we listen in our cars to an audio tour explaining all about their history. What a genius idea.
Well, we're delighted at how it's all come together. It took a lot of work and a lot of cooperation from all the churches. And then we had a pretty heavy lift to raise the money privately to do it, because the event is free and open to the public, and it'll be up for a whole month. We have no city money involved, and we have terrific sponsors that'll be listed on the streets with signage. So it's a gift to the community, and boy, don't we need a good lift, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exciting, Ginny, too, to see that JEA has partnered up with the Cathedral District and providing energy-efficient LED lighting. And this is also a great way to get more people engaged with this newly named district, named after the 5 historic cathedrals. You have big plans for this district going forward. Can you share a little bit about that?
We do. We've been up and running as a nonprofit for a couple of years now, and we have presently in early 2021 we have about 303 apartments that'll be under construction. Matter of fact, one is breaking ground right after Thanksgiving, and a $42 million investment into the district, capital investment. So we're moving in the right direction for sure. One of the most surprising and delightful things is that Main Street Park has been completely given a facelift. All new landscaping, new irrigation, the new planters throughout the park. So we're starting with opening night on Friday in the park, where all the churches have come together with their choirs, and will be socially distanced, wearing masks, and they're going to open with a few prayers and also with several hymns. So the district itself, I think, is poised to be one of the best residential neighborhoods in downtown. And certainly if the long-term plan that is over on Lot J and Metropolitan Park comes to fruition, we will be the residential capital for those people who serve those needs where they will live.
Fantastic.
So I'd like to have Linda talk a little bit about, if she wouldn't mind, a special thing that we have that's occurring on Christmas Eve in a couple of days.
We are almost out of time. So 30 seconds left. Linda, go ahead.
Well, let me just talk to you about opening night. We have several activities planned through the 30-day event. It actually runs through New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve, we'll have a special light show, which we can talk to you about later, because there's a lot of excitement around this art project. But on opening night, when you drive through, we want people to stay in their cars, be safe. We all know that COVID is kind of ramping up again. So stay in your cars and enjoy the lights. It's mesmerizing. And you'll see a live nativity scene. You'll see musicians all over the street. you'll see vignettes of different musicians playing, and then you've got this audio tour, and it's only like a 30-minute drive if you go really slowly.
But well worth it. Well worth it. And out of time, ladies. Out of time. Go to cathedraldistrict-jax.org and get the map and the audio tour for Let There Be Light, kicking off on Bright Friday. Ginny Myrick, Linda Crofton, thanks so much. It's going to be great.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. And that is our show. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist